Our next session is, as you can see, on immigration enforcement, and none other than Kim Reed is better to talk about this particular topic. So Kim, take it away.
Yeah, thank you guys. So grateful that you are here, those of you in person and those of you who are on Zoom. Immigration continues to be such an important issue. And as we've seen in the past year, but especially, starting in the fall in the Chicago area. I am so grateful to have our speakers, our panelists today. And I'm going to just do a brief introduction because I would like you to go back and on the website, the LWVIL website, and read their bios. But I'd rather that they have more time to talk to you today. So we have Sara Dady, who is an immigration attorney, but yeah. But she is also the chair of the Greater Rockford LWVIL Immigration Committee. And I rely on her all the time for information and presentations. And, we even did one for people around the country. Continue to be so impressed with her. Secondly, this is my first time meeting in person, Dianha Ortega-Ehreth. And, thank you. And she comes to us from Elgin, and she is the executive director of the Centro de Información. And they serve Elgin, Hanover Park, and Carpentersville communities. And I just want to also mention, because when I was looking how to pronounce her name, I came across a video where she was being recognized at the floors of the state or the federal Capitol building by her congresswoman for the work she has done. So. And then lastly, we have Fred Tsao, who's the Senior Policy Counsel with the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights. For those of you who have been longtime leaguers, we have seen Fred again and again. And I want to point out that 20 years ago, when we were in the middle of a statewide immigration study, Fred was our guru. He was a person we went to for suggestions, for guidance, and he continues to be. And Fred is responsible for so many of the protections that the state of Illinois has for the immigrant community. So really grateful for everyone being here today, you guys and our panelists. So we're going to start. I'm going to hand it over to Sara.
Okay, 1 second. I saw a lot of people furiously taking notes. I want to announce to everybody, virtually and in person, all of the presentations that you have seen will be made available and sent to you next week after the next week.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Kim, for all of the hard work that you do. I always say, of all the issues in the United States, immigration should really be the least controversial. And what I'm hoping is after you hear this presentation today and you have a better understanding of what our immigration laws actually are, you will agree that immigration should not be controversial. This is the League of Women Voters' position on immigration, and it is really important that the League has a position on an issue so then we can do more advocacy around it. And I understand at the National Convention this year, we might be seeing a stronger League position on immigration, so that means we can do more around advocating for legislation and other things. But our position is very reasonable, very straightforward, and I think most of us would say there's nothing controversial about our position on immigration. Except for, there we go. Okay. What most of us in the United States agree on is that the United States has an absolute right to control who crosses its borders. There should not be any undocumented people in the United States. We should know who's here. There should be a lawful process for all non-citizens to seek entry to the U.S. for either temporary stays or permanent residency. Annual visa numbers should be based on actual U.S. economic need, family needs, and humanitarian responsibilities. Individuals who pose a danger to the U.S. should not be granted entry, and individuals who have harmed the U.S. should be deported. Individuals should not be denied entry solely because of their race, religion, color, national origin, sex, or other immutable characteristic. Does that sound reasonable? Raise your hand. Now, what if I told you our immigration laws do none of those things? When we talk about immigration in this country, we're working on a lot of erroneous assumptions. I am not advancing. Are we sure the remote's working? I'm going to give you a very brief overview of U.S. immigration law, as brief of it as it can be. Yeah, okay. This is the current percentage of immigrants as a share of our population in the U.S. as of last year. And it's the highest it's ever been. It's about 16%. Previous high was about 15.8% of the population, or 15.4% previously. So we have a lot of immigrants in this country, it's true, but as a share of our population, it's 16%. It doesn't seem like a lot. There have been 3 major waves of immigration to the United States. The first one, beginning in 1840, was the Northern European immigrants coming to the United States. The second major wave, 1890, we saw Southern and Eastern European immigrants coming. So the Italians and Romanians and, Yes, right. And then the third major wave that we've been seeing since 1965 is primarily from Mexico, China, India, Philippines, Cuba, other countries around the world. So 3 major waves. Is this not?
Do you have to aim it towards the?
Do I have to aim it that way? Well, that went, okay. Undocumented immigrants in the United States make up the smallest share of immigrants in the United States and are about 4% of total U.S. populations, the share of our population. But when we talk about immigration in the United States and immigration reform, we tend to spend 99% of the conversation on 4% of our population. And this assumes that we do have a good immigration system and we do have good laws, which is, I don't know why okay. All right, our immigration system is complicated. Even federal judges have a hard time understanding our immigration system. They equate it to our tax laws and its complexity. Next one, please. Next one. All right. So in 1790, we as a country passed our very first immigration law, which limited citizenship to free white citizens. So from the very beginning of our nation, we were very concerned about what an American looks like, what a citizen looks like. The second thing that we did as a nation was to grant powers to the president to deport people from the United States. One of those laws, the Alien Enemies Act, we've heard a lot about over the last year, from 1798, still a valid law, and it allows broad executive power to identify individuals as enemies and remove them from the country. We didn't do anything else on immigration till after the railroads were built. We brought in 20,000 Chinese immigrants to build the railroads. After those were built and they started settling in, Congress seemed to be very upset that there were Chinese immigrants living among us. They were concerned about these Chinese immigrants depressing American wages for Americans and racial purity. And those were the words that were spoken on the floor of the U.S. House and the U.S. Senate. Consequently, Congress passed the Chinese Exclusion Act to prohibit any more Chinese laborers from immigrating to the United States. After that time, we entered a time of immigration restrictionism. 1917 imposed a literacy test on immigrants, and that is the year Congress discovered there were more countries in Asia besides China. So then they barred all Asian laborers. Next slide, please. And the arguments that were made for all of this legislation to restrict immigration are the same arguments we're hearing today. First, when, the Irish were coming over, the newspaper editorial cartoons were, Britain is sending us giant ships of poor people to come and take our benefits. Or Asian immigrants. This is a cartoon of the heads of Asian immigrants on the bodies of locusts, because these Asian immigrants are coming to eat and destroy America's bounty. Italians, remember the big wave of Italian immigrants coming over? And this was in the 19-teens when we started imposing literacy tests, and then pretty soon you'll see the National Quotas Act. These are the heads of Italian immigrants on the bodies of rats being dumped into New York Harbor, and their little hats say things like mafia, criminal. So Italian immigrants were criminals invading our nation like vermin. So these images and these arguments that we're hearing in modern day are not new. They are the arguments of immigration restrictionists. All right, 1910, immigration declines rapidly. Deportations get stepped up. It was a time of union organizing in this country. Immigrants were very involved with union organizing. They were tagged as radicals and deported. 1921, this is when Congress created a visa process expressly to preserve Northern Europeans as the favored immigrants coming to the country, because they look most like what an American should look like, according to Congress. So they used the 1910 census to keep the levels of people coming in from specific areas of the world about where they were with our 1910 census. In 1924, Congress decided that Northern European immigrants were not favored enough in the 1910 census, so we should go back to the 1890 census. Remember when all those Irish were coming over and we were complaining that they were just all poor people sucking up our public benefits? Now they have the favored look. So we went back to the 1890 census to make sure that there were more immigrant visas available for Northern Europeans. And 1924 is the year Border Patrol was created. All right, 1924. We entered the Great Depression with immigration restrictionism, lack of economic activity, immigration drops off. We go into World War II. All of our men go off to fight. We need people to come and work in the factories. And it was at that time Congress repealed the Chinese Exclusion Act. Not because it was wrong to deny visas based on national origin or what people look like, but because we needed workers. We also entered into a treaty with Mexico to allow Mexican citizens to freely cross our border to come and work during wartime. After the war, there was heightened security concerns about people. So we created security and screening procedures, really for the first time in this country with immigration. Ellis Island is long closed after the National Origins Act. 1965, this is when Congress says, okay, we're really going to modernize our immigration system. We're going to have an orderly system. And they create the Immigration Nationality Act. It eliminated quotas by eliminating the word quota from the law, but it still limited visas based on what parts of the world people were from. Next slide, please. Immigration is like a highway. Just tap it again. Tap it again. There we go. So in 1965, there were a lot fewer cars traveling on highways, right? Everything was good. But after a time, there's increased traffic and highways need maintenance, right? Our immigration system is like a highway. Next slide, please. So we didn't do anything else on immigration really until 1986. And then that's when the U.S. actually had a large population of undocumented workers, primarily in agriculture, because they didn't have a visa to come in under the 1965 law. There was no lane for them. So Reagan signed an amnesty and said, okay, you meet certain requirements, you're going to be allowed to apply for a green card. And then Congress set up a worker visa program. Sounds great. We really needed one. But as it turns out, it didn't work real well. Visas were limited. They weren't for every kind of job. They were expensive. So in the 1990s, again, our undocumented population grew because there was demand for workers to come and work, but there was no visa for them to apply for to come and do that legally. Clinton took the opposite approach as Reagan and signed the harshest immigration law we've ever had. It created mandatory immigration detention, which we're seeing a lot of now. That's the reason why this Congress and this administration is talking about building mass detention centers, because this is the law that allows it. It limited federal court review of immigration decisions, which means it's really hard for an immigrant to get into federal court and have a federal judge review the action of the executive branch taken against them. It limited relief from deportation. It expanded the grounds of deportation and visa denials, so it created a lot more obstacles. So you want to hear about the lines. Here are the lines. If you are the immediate relative of a U.S. citizen, there's a green card. It's called an immigrant visa. Green card immigrant visa is the same thing. If you're the immediate relative of a U.S. citizen, there are unlimited immigrant visa numbers available. Immediate relatives are defined as spouses of U.S. citizens, unmarried children under the age of 21 of U.S. citizens, and parents of a U.S. citizen, but that U.S. citizen child has to be 21 years old, okay? If you are not the immediate relative of the United States, here are the lines. Immigrant visas through family immigration are limited to 226,000 per year. And it's been that way for over 30 years. It's a number arbitrarily set by Congress and has not been revisited. So as time has gone on since 1965, traffic has increased, but there are no more lanes. Lanes have not been added. So there's wait times. The F1 category is for adult unmarried sons and daughters of U.S. citizens. The F2A category is for spouses and unmarried children under the age of 21 of permanent residents, green card holders. F2B is for adult unmarried sons and daughters of green card holders. F3 is for married sons and daughters of U.S. citizens. F4 is for siblings of U.S. citizens. So if you do not have a family member who can petition for you in one of these categories, there is no line for you to get in. The line does not exist for you. Further, because of all the increased traffic and the failure of Congress to increase the visa numbers, it's created decades-long wait times, even if you have a lane to get in. And here's another problem. If I have a green card and I'm from Mexico and I want to petition for my husband and my 19-year-old daughter who live in Mexico and I want to immigrate them here to live with me, I can file a petition for them. That's going to be the F2A category, and then you have to follow the line over to Mexico because we further restrict immigrant visas for people from China, India, Mexico, and the Philippines. Does this sound familiar? Does this constant restricting of people from certain areas of the world? We continue to do it. So my husband and my daughter, I'm going to file a petition for them now in April of 2026. There's going to be a visa number available in about 3 years, so they can go to the consulate and interview for it. 3 years isn't that bad. But my daughter, who's 19, is going to be over the age of 21 in 3 years. So she's going to fall out of that category and go into the F2B category for unmarried adult daughters of green card holders. There are visa numbers available for petitions that were filed in 2009. I'm filing mine in 2026 for her. So it's going to be over 15 years, maybe longer, before she has her visa interview. And if in those 15 years she decides to get married while she's waiting for her visa number, my petition for her is automatically terminated because there is no category for married sons and daughters of green card holders. So we have set up a system where the wait times for visas are so long, even if you have a line to get in, people are unwilling to be separated from their families for that long. And a lot of families entered without permission to the United States while they were waiting in line. Next slide, please. We allow 140,000 employment-based green cards per year. Again, this number is arbitrarily set by Congress, has not changed in over 30 years. Employers can petition for certain employees. They have to prove certain things to the government. They have to pay for it, and there needs to be a visa number available. C means current, but otherwise, the other dates, and you see we further limit green cards for even employment-based green cards to applicants from China, India, Mexico, and the Philippines. In Congress's way to keep our ethnic balance in the United States. Next slide, please. All right, let's say you waited in line. You got a line to get in, you waited, it finally, there's a number available, 100% you're gonna get it, right? 100%. No, because now we have a long list of immigration violations that are gonna disqualify you from getting that visa, no matter how long you've waited. If you entered without permission, if you were unlawfully present in the United States for more than 1 year, if you have certain criminal convictions, if you have a controlled substance offense, unless it was for anything, it was for less than 30 grams of marijuana, only there's a waiver available, but anything else, disqualified. If you lied and said you were a US citizen for any reason, permanently disqualified. If you registered to vote or voted, permanently disqualified from getting a green card. So let's be clear about that. Public charge. Your petitioner has to show that they make enough money to sponsor you because permanent residents are not eligible for public benefits for at least 5 years after coming in with a green card. And I think you saw this in the previous presentation referenced about that. And if you do go on any sort of cash public benefits, the government can seek reimbursement from your petitioner for that. That's been the law for a long time. People who have a mental or physical defect or poses danger to others can be denied an immigrant visa. Also, that goes to public charge. Whoever the president is can make a lot of policy around these very old laws that we have. Public charge is a good one. Under the last Trump administration, they decided that very old people and very young people were likely to go on public benefits if they came here, so they were denied visas. So US citizens trying to bring their elderly parents in to live with them, the government said no, they can't get a good paying job, so no, and refused the immigrant visa. People who lied on previous visa applications or used fake documents to come into the United States, that's also an immigration violation. All right, so our immigration system is still the Immigration and Nationality Act from 1965, and it is a highway that has received zero maintenance in 60 years. There's been zero potholes filled, zero lanes have been widened, and the answer, Congress's answer to this road, let's close more lanes. Next one. Tap it. Let's hire more police to watch those potholes and make sure only licensed drivers are hitting those potholes. Next slide. So the bottom line here is the majority of people in this world do not have a legal way to even apply to come here. It doesn't mean everyone's going to get approved, but they don't even have a way to make an application to come here. There is no line for them to get in. The undocumented people that we have in the US, most of them, there is not a line for them to get in. And even if there is a line, at this point, they have violations that are going to disqualify them from getting a green card. Okay, but let's say you jump through all the hoops, you get your immigrant visa, you come in, you have your green card. Welcome to the United States of America. Don't unpack. Because now we have a whole nother list of immigration violations that will make people that did everything right deportable. Pay particular attention to registering to vote or voting in the United States. That will make someone who's here legally deportable. We have a backlog of immigration cases. The immigration courts are not real federal courts. They're administrative law courts under the Department of Justice. The immigration judges are employees of the Department of Justice. The prosecutors are employees of the Department of Homeland Security. But even before last January, a year ago, there was a backlog of over 3.5 million immigration cases in immigration court. This is probably a bigger problem than people wanting to come to the United States, wanting to work in the United States, wanting to live in the United States and have children in the United States. Probably the bigger problem is the fact that U.S. population growth is slowing. And the projected growth depended on our immigration numbers staying approximately stable as the same number that we've had coming in for the last 20 years. Well, as of last year, we've officially become an immigration restrictionist country. So we're going to see the number of immigrants drop steeply, and then you couple those with the number of people that we are deporting or encouraging to leave our country. That's going to be a real big problem for us.
So questions at the end.
Yes. All right.
Okay.
Is this on?
No.
All right. Hi. I will try to be quick here with my comments. It's an honor to sit in between two very highly respected attorneys. I am the non-attorney at the table. I've worked in nonprofit leadership management for over 30 years. I came to work at Centro de Información almost 4 years ago, but I tell you, it feels like 20 years. I started the week before the buses with the migrants from Texas started coming to the Chicago area. And I got a phone call from the mayor of Elgin saying, what do we do if a bus gets dropped off here in Elgin? And I said, let me make some phone calls. I tapped into the network very quickly, and within a couple of weeks, I said, okay, I think I know what to do now. So that's how I started. It started with sort of a panic emergency situation, and it hasn't stopped since then. So there's two main things that I want to lift up. One is how this current climate of anti-immigration narratives has impacted our work. Centro de Información, where I serve, is one of 42 Illinois welcoming centers. There's a lot of great organizations that have been helping the immigrant community in the state of Illinois. The state of Illinois has been an immigrant-friendly state and puts money behind that to fund organizations like the one where I'm currently serving. So I'm going to talk first about the impact on our day-to-day. And I will tell you that it's really interesting. Number one, of course, our clients, some of them don't want to come to appointments anymore at all. They don't want to get on the radar. Centro has been offering immigration services for many years. We are recognized by the Department of Justice with our team. And I guess that used to mean something, but it's kind of a mess right now. And if they do come, they come with their whole family in the room, which means that we have to adjust our appointment protocols because it's all about privacy in the room, because there's a lot of personal questions on immigration application forms that sometimes other people in the family don't know the answers to. And so we've just had to adjust our protocols. A lot of people calling saying, what's the status on my application? We tell them we don't know because we haven't heard back, because what used to take 2 to 3 months to hear back now is taking over 6 months as the soonest. There have been people who renewed their DACA status applications over 6 months ago who still haven't heard on their DACA applications, which means that technically their DACA has expired, and which means that some of them have lost their jobs because their employers say we can no longer continue to employ you if your DACA is not current. There's a long list of immigration application stories that I will skip by, but we also offer rental assistance. We have a mutual aid fund in our community in partnership with the local rapid response team, of which I'm also a part. And it's so interesting. We rather pay the landlord directly on behalf of the client. And a lot of landlords are saying no. They don't want our money, some of them, because they'd rather just evict the people who are living in very poor conditions already anyway. And we all know that housing, you could probably do a whole weekend just on housing issues too, right? So that's been really hard. Grant writing has really shifted a little bit because there's a literally 4 or 5 pages list along of trigger words, right? That the government, it says if this is anything to do with diversity, with equity, we don't want to fund anything like that, right? So anything that we try to do in coalition with other ethnic communities to do cross-cultural communication, celebrations, diversity celebrations, no, we don't want to fund that. And so we have had to turn to private funders for some of our work, and that's hard. That's a hard shift to make very suddenly. We do have an emergency food pantry. The demand has increased 150% in the last year. We have a robust team of volunteers who deliver to families who do not feel safe coming out, just to get enough food to keep in their cupboards so that they don't go hungry. And there's just many families who have been affected by deportation who are having a very hard time reintegrating into society. We have high school students dropping out of school because they're getting jobs to support their family. I don't know what the numbers are here at Harper College, but I would venture to say that it's very similar to Elgin Community College that has had a significant drop in student enrollment. I think it's almost 30%, if not more. Okay. Lastly, I want to share one of the things that we've tried to do is build a coalition of the other immigrant serving agencies in the Elgin area. And we call it the Elgin Area Immigrant Alliance, of which Sue is a part of. Sue, where are you? There you are. So if you have questions, talk to Sue sometime today. It is a group where strategic collaborations so it's basically a community organizing group of volunteers who are advocating for ordinances at the local level, helping businesses with their policies of how to protect employees in case ICE comes to their place of business, for example. We just started a healthcare committee that is doing very important know your medical rights presentations, because we have a lot of our clients telling us that they have been turned away from hospitals when they needed emergency care, which is illegal, by the way, right? We know that. We have a community of faith leaders who meet once a month in front of our city hall in Elgin to pray and call on the community to wake up, do something. And, you know, they mobilize a lot of the people in their local congregations to do important work as an extension of Centro's advocacy work with ICIRR, which Fred is going to talk about in a little bit. I guess I could go on, but at the local level, Centro de Información is not alone. Every agency is faced with a number of challenges. And if you're interested in helping, I encourage you to find your local Welcoming Center organization and find out how you can get involved. And if you would like to join the Elgin Area Immigrant Alliance, it's Elgin area. So if you live as far as Schaumburg, that's okay. We need to build coalitions, especially in the suburbs. Did you know that the majority of Latinos in the Chicago area live outside of the Chicago city limits? Most of the Latinos are in the suburbs. That's just Latinos. I don't know what the number is for all non-white people, but the work is a little bit trickier because we have to deal with multiple municipalities. So when we talk about ordinances and we're even rapid response, we have to deal with, you know, a list of 10, 11, 12 different police departments, making sure that they're not violating the Trust Act, which we didn't even get into today, but I encourage you to learn about that too. And so we need all the help that we can get. I think I'll leave it there because I know we're going to be short on time. Thank you.
Hey, this thing is on. Okay. I'm glad to be following both Sara and Dianha, who are really on the front lines. Sara, with respect to the, you know, representation of clients, you know, who day in, day out as they're going through the immigration process or getting processed themselves with respect to deportation and sometimes even trying to get people out of detention. Sara, I don't know to what extent you're doing habeas cases, but yeah, that's real frontline work. And then Dianha, of course, you know, doing the really hard work with community members in Elgin and the surrounding area, trying to meet their basic needs and dealing with this overall environment of fear and intimidation that unfortunately we're dealing with. So I'm going to say a few words about how we can push back. My first step in doing this is asking, how many of you have gone to a Know Your Rights presentation? Ooh, that's good. Okay, and that's not even counting the people online here. How many of you have given a Know Your Rights presentation? Okay. Yeah, I have too. Okay, so yeah, I definitely encourage all of you to, you know, not just participate in the Know Your Rights presentations, but if you're so inclined to even get trained on giving Know Your Rights presentations. We at ICIRR run weekly Know Your Rights presentations online every Monday evening at 6 p.m. You can listen while you're fixing dinner or eating dinner. And then once a month, we also organize train the trainer sessions. So if you're so inclined, you can join us for those. You can get, we can go through the the Know Your Rights curriculum. We can offer pointers on how to present. We do update our Know Your Rights materials periodically because there's always new stuff happening on the federal level, for better or worse. So yeah, so even if it's been a while since you've taken a training, even though a lot of the really basic information is the same, there are going to be updates that you may want to be aware of. So that's step one. Step two is grab Know Your Rights cards. I did bring 100 of these cards with me to this event. And actually, Sarah's pointing out that we also have these whistle packets, which include a bit more material, including a 3D printed whistle that the good folks in Rockford have put together, as well as information on how to document ICE incidents. Which actually is a good transition into the next thing that I want to talk about, rapid response work. So I'm not going to out people who are part of rapid response teams because that's not cool, but I will note that ICIRR has organized a network of nearly 40 rapid response teams throughout the state, most of which, as you might imagine, are in the Chicago region. But we have teams in DeKalb, in Central Illinois, Champaign-Urbana. I believe there's even one in far southern Illinois. If you are so inclined, this is not for everybody, I realize, but if you are so inclined, we are training up volunteers and connecting people with the rapid response teams. So what do the rapid response teams do? Well, when we get calls on our hotline, or we may spot an incident that gets posted on social media or through other networks. The rapid responders go out to the location of the incident and try to document as best as they can, taking pictures, taking videos, speaking with witnesses. Also, if there's time, also, going through the neighborhood and leaving behind Know Your Rights information and other materials that can be supportive. So actually, as we're speaking right now, the leads for the Rapid Response Network are meeting. So I am missing that meeting right now to be here this morning. We do closely coordinate among the rapid response teams. There is a team in, I think the closest one here is Des Plaines Mount Prospect, and then of course Elgin. And actually I believe there's one in Schaumburg Rolling Meadows. Hanover Park, that's right. Chances are you live in an area where we have a rapid response team. We do run rapid response trainings every Wednesday evening at 6 p.m. They're online. I can share the link. I unfortunately did not put slides together, so but I can share links that we can share out after this session is done. I mentioned our hotline. So our Know Your Rights cards prominently feature the phone number where people can call if there is, if they themselves are being subjected to immigration enforcement, or even if they see something. So 855-435-7693, or excuse me, 855-HELP-MY-FAMILY. That is the key phone number. Folks can call in, report an ICE sighting or an ICE enforcement incident. People can also use that phone number to get legal referrals, get connected up with social service agencies like Centro, as well as get recorded information about certain topics like citizenship and DACA and healthcare access. So again, 855-435-7693. Okay. So I also wanted to say a few words about some of the policy advocacy that we have been doing at ICIRR. Actually, Dianha mentioned, mentioned the some of the local work that we've been trying to support. For those who don't know, Elgin is trying to pass its own welcoming ordinance. Elgin, unfortunately, may not be as progressive as Chicago or certain communities closer into Chicago, but we're still trying. And Elgin's ordinance, if it passes, will leapfrog Chicago and Evanston as the strongest welcoming ordinance in the entire state. So I'm rooting for you all. But that said, we've also been able to pass a lot of good, strong laws on the state level, including the Trust Act, Illinois Forward. We have a private prison ban, and pretty much a total ban on immigration detention here in the state. But we could be doing more. So I want to mention a few things that we're pushing for. First off, we're working on a couple of bills that would further strengthen protections for immigrants. We're working on a data protection bill that would limit the ability of state and local government agencies to ask about and collect immigration status information, because what they do not collect, they cannot share, and they cannot be forced to turn over. And of course, if these agencies are asking about immigration status, of course, that's going to really discourage people from coming forward, won't it? So that's a huge chunk of this bill. This bill would also restrict the ability of anybody who is housing personal information to turn over that information to anybody else for immigration enforcement purposes. So this would be a very, very strong law that we hope will make it much more difficult for immigration enforcement to hoover up all the data that we're generating just by logging onto our phones or doing an online search. So that's one bill. The other bill in this area has to do with post-conviction relief. So people who may have gone through the criminal system, who may have served their time, might still be vulnerable to deportation. As Sara mentioned, one of the major grounds for deportation is previous history, in the criminal system. So, but there may be ways for folks to reopen their cases so that they can avoid the really harsh penalty of deportation. So, that this bill that we're working on would enable people to do that. They can do this if they're still in prison, but strangely enough, once they've served their time, that opportunity closes. So we want to try to even the playing field here so that people who have done their time, excuse me, can get this form of relief. So that's the bucket with respect to further protections. We are also working on a number of laws having to do with healthcare access and access to public benefits. I understand that one of the previous panels touched on all the changes that are happening on the federal level with respect to eligibility cuts for healthcare and specifically for SNAP, the program formerly known as food stamps. We want to try to create state programs that would enable people who are losing their eligibility through no fault of their own, just as a result of their status. Those folks may be losing their Medicaid and losing their SNAP benefits, this year. So we want to make sure that those folks, I'm talking about refugees, people who've been granted asylum, people who are seeking, people who are seeking or have some form of humanitarian protection in the United States, will be eligible to continue to get whatever support that they may need as they're making their lives in the United States. Two other main buckets. Of course, we're still trying to increase funding for immigrant services. This is the line in the state budgets that provides vital resources for organizations like Centro and several dozen organizations throughout the state, so that they can provide assistance with citizenship or DACA cases, or provide interpretation services and community education with respect to services that they may be eligible for. So we're seeking a modest increase. We're currently funded at 40 million. We're seeking a modest increase to 41 million, which I would hope the state legislature would find reasonable. And then to top all of this off, we are part of an alliance known as the Illinois Revenue Alliance that is pushing for progressive revenue. I realize this was the topic of the previous panel, but we are pushing for a number of specific solutions, including a billionaire wealth tax, a digital ad tax, and closing some corporate loopholes, which we hope would generate a few $billions that can go toward things like, I don't know, providing healthcare, or providing funding education, all that stuff that we really need, or fixing those potholes on the highways. We've had a couple of lobby days in Springfield this spring already. Our next lobby day is next Wednesday, which happens to be April 15th, Tax Day. We're marking Tax Day by having a giant rally in Springfield to push for progressive revenue. I understand Dianha is bringing a bus to Springfield. So if you're in the Elgin, Carpentersville, Hanover Park area, talk to Dianha. Otherwise, we are encouraging people to send messages to your state legislators. Unfortunately, I was not able to share the QR code where you can do this. So unfortunately I'm going to need to read the link, and I'll send the QR code later. But ICIRR.quorum.us/campaign/155668. I'm sorry. Again, I'll go through that. I'll go through that slowly again. ICIRR.quorum, QUORUM.us/campaign/ and here's the number again, 155668. Otherwise, I know I'm very closely connected with Kim, who I keep informed of all the stuff that we're doing in Springfield. So we will be sharing further updates with respect to other opportunities to engage in Springfield and on other levels of government. So with that, hand it back to Kim.
Yeah, so thank you. Let's hear it for our panelists today. And there's just not enough time. And so we thank you for indulging us. We went over. So there isn't time for a lot of questions right now. Maybe we can take two, because I think it's time for lunch. However, our panelists are staying for lunch, so you can certainly talk to them. For those of you who are on Zoom, please, I think are we tracking the questions? If not, just email them to me, kimreed178@gmail.com, and I will be happy to forward it to our panelists and get the responses. In the meantime, are there two questions from the people who are here?
So we had a question online as to where we could get the cards that you were showing.
Here, just.
I turned off my mic to blow my nose. So, okay. Yeah, no, give us a call. 312-332-7693. I'm sorry. 312-332-7360 is ICIRR's phone number. So you can leave a message. We'll get back to you, and we'll get cards over to you.
And we also have the whistle kits that the Rockford League has assembled at the immigration issues table out front. We have a bag full of 750 whistle kits that have been assembled. Take as many as you want. And if you're going to distribute them out, take them, get them out. They're not doing anyone any good sitting in bags. And if you want instructions, maybe your league would start wanting to do whistle kit assemblies. Rockford, we'd be happy to walk you through it and how we have it set up.
And you can always email Kim because she is a fountain of information. If she doesn't have it, she can get it.
Good network.
With respect to the cards, I should have also pointed out the mock-ups of the cards are also available on our website. So icirr.org/FSN. And the really cool thing about these cards is that we have translated them into, I think now, almost 20 languages. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's it. But as I said, they're here for lunch. All right, thank you so much again. Thank all of
Thank you, Kim.